Hi, and welcome to Beyond the Falls. I'm Sarah Jenkins. Today I've got our River Falls City Administrator, Scot Simpson, with us. So thank you. I'm super grateful that you came here today.
Sure, thanks for having me.
Yes. My first question is, what's your connection to River Falls? What brought you to River Falls?
What brought me to River Falls was a recruiter, I think is the fairest way to say it. So I grew up in Wisconsin and probably didn't really know that River Falls existed much until later in life. So they had the job opening here for city administrator, and so that's the first time that Rachel and I kind of took a look and thought about the possibility of being here. So that was almost 16 years ago. So,
wow.
Well, it would have been 16 years ago when the recruiting started, but I've been here for almost 16 years in the position. So that's my connection, how we came to River Falls.
I love it. And you guys have raised your family here? And
we have, yeah. Alex was actually born here. So we had 3 kids when we moved here and added a 4th. And so now 2 are out in college, and 1 at the high school, 1 at the middle school. So next year will be I think the first time in a long time that we'll only have kids at 1 school in the River Falls School District. So
that'll be nice.
Both be at the high school, and they'll be kind of happy and sad all at the same time.
Yeah, so. Absolutely. Can you tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be a city administrator? Yeah,
I grew up in Beloit. And they had a city manager form, which is pretty rare in Wisconsin. There's maybe a dozen or 2 dozen city managers. And so my dad, small business owner, so I grew up in a small business environment, and my dad was on, downtown board, business board, this business board, the park board, every kind of volunteer, church, Boy Scouts, you name it. Really involved in the community, and then eventually decided to run for city council. Was on the city council. So I had, kind of this background knowledge, I guess, of what that looked like. And then went to school for business at Carroll. Intended to, be on the 15th floor of some building in downtown Milwaukee.
Yes.
And then had the opportunity to add a public administration double major when I was in school at Carroll. Got an internship as an undergrad working for the finance department at Waukesha County, and so things kind of spun a little bit from there, and ended up deciding I'd like to go to graduate school, and so I was thinking between the MBA and MPA, and decided to go the public administration route. Went to NIU, worked for the city of Janesville, which is just north of where I grew up. And then had an opportunity to kind of get mentored there by a longtime city manager, and Rachel and I moved to Lancaster, Wisconsin, the county seat of Grant County in the far southwest part of the state. And then from there was recruited up to River Falls. So that's kind of the path. The why, I think, just thought there was a way to make a good impact there. Certainly had the chance to see the small business end. We were retail lawn and garden, so it was pretty intense periods of time, and then kind of lulls, and I like to be active and busy, so thought this was a challenge to be able to work in local government where there's it's never the same any day. And we got 65 different businesses at the city, and so it's really something that kind of grew on me, starting in Janesville and then going to Lancaster and kind of having hands-on, getting to do it. So kind of see what people are interested, what problems they identify, and then be able to make those changes right away has been pretty rewarding. Yeah,
I love it. That's quite the background, and we're glad you're here in River Falls, and kind of tell us a little bit about what is your actual role as a city manager? What are kind of your responsibilities, I guess?
Yeah, I guess the best way to explain it is in terms that a lot of people understand. The mayor in Wisconsin is the CEO. So by law, he's the CEO of the city. But then he's part-time, cities have the ability to adopt different forms of how they want to be, how they want to manage kind of the day-to-day. So from a functional standpoint, I'm the CEO of the city. So the mayor's kind of like the chairman of the board, and the council's the board of directors. And so they provide some of the big vision and the overall goals. And then they ask me to kind of be the CEO of the city. And then I have a really talented team of folks that includes like the finance director, the police chief, community development director, who are my kind of reports. And then obviously they work with some really talented folks to carry out the business. So,
Yeah.
so I'm the chief unelected official. So my job is to try to manage up, down, and out. So working with the council and the mayor, I have to manage that direction and get some direction from them and the community, and then managing, obviously kind of in a traditional way, managing the staff of the city. And then the unique part of this role is really managing out into the community, so making sure I'm connected to the community and kind of bringing that information, feedback, viewpoint to the work we do, because it's very geographically focused. I mean,
Yeah.
city, I always say cities are kind of in the real estate business, so everything is, there's kind of a center or nucleus of what we're doing, and so it's important to kind of understand what's going on at any given time. So that up, down, and out is really important. You can't just be a staff manager. You can't just be kind of a politician working with the politicians, and frankly, you can't just be out in the community. You got to kind of work all those things. So that's what's fun about the job.
Yes. And you're a little bit busy.
I am busy. Yep. Never a dull moment.
What is, like, how do you balance it all? You've got a big family. You've got a demanding job. So
I don't balance it, which is kind of an inside joke at the city, because we talk a lot about work-life balance and creating a culture.
Yep.
But I actually don't believe in work-life balance. I don't ever think you're balanced.
Hard.
You're always kind of teetering. You're going back and forth, and there's times when you need to be 100% focused on family. There's times when you need to be 100% focused on the job, and so the honest thing is you don't really balance. It's just kind of like lots of balls in the air all the time, and you're juggling and get a good team around you. And River Falls is an excellent place to be a city administrator. It's just really a fertile place. There's a lot of opportunity for success for our team members. One of the things that's, I think, really unique about River Falls is it's almost anti-status quo. So a lot of experience that my peers have is when they work in a community that the community wants to just hang on to everything just exactly the way it is.
Yeah.
And River Falls almost has an opposite, like they want to know what's new, what's going on, what's happening, why haven't we changed this, fixed this, updated this. So that's one thing that's, fits my personality. So that's good.
It is. So with your job, what would you say is your biggest challenge right now?
That's a good question. I mean, I think the biggest challenge is that we run across here, which is a good problem to have, is there's just way too many good things that we can do, focus our efforts on, there's way too many good things, opportunities that we can ever accomplish. And so the biggest challenging thing is making sure you have priorities and that you just focus on what are the things that you're going to do on top line.
Yeah.
So that's the challenge of the day, is like we have a city staff that wants to go, and so a lot of times you have to do a little pulling of the reins to say, well, okay, are we all making sure we're going in the right direction and getting stuff done? Because there really is no end to the things that a community can do. We got all these businesses lines, all these services that we could do at any given time. We could be working on 1,000 different things, and so really it's kind of boiling it down to 24 things that we're going to focus on over the next 2 to 3 years, and then make sure we're getting those done.
What is your maybe biggest accomplishment as city administrator?
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I think assembling a good team and probably working really hard on the culture that we have at the city to try to make it an employer of choice. People have a lot of choices about the things they can do, and I find it really fascinating. One of the things I like to hear is people's stories about, like, how did you end up doing this or that. I love to see how things are made. I like factory tours and stuff, and so I kind of like that internal. It just takes a lot to get things kind of organized and humming. And so that's, I guess, to the extent that I've been able to impact the culture of the city workforce and the culture of kind of investment and other things in the community. That's my biggest, I guess, accomplishment is just to kind of get that culture going so that people want to work for the city. They want to serve the community. They want to get a lot of work done. They have a high interest in actually accomplishing things. And so that's something I'm happy about.
Yeah. And I think you definitely see it as a community member. I feel like everyone that works for the city's happy, and I mean, I really do feel that.
Yeah, hopefully they're reflecting that spirit of service out there in the community, and I think you can tell it's genuine, that they really like
it. Is.
Nobody's captive, right? People get an opportunity to choose what they want to do, and so we're giving them a choice to be able to get out there and serve people. So it's great.
It is. Since I am a real estate agent, I'm going to bring up what do we see with housing in River Falls? Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, we've had an opportunity to get some opinions of other folks about it. So we've done a housing study in 18 and 22. So that's provided us some information about kind of what the market, what folks in the real estate market are seeing. Yep. I know you probably had the opportunity to look at that. So, we joke a little bit about, one of the jokes about downtowns is if you don't have a parking problem downtown, you have a downtown problem. Right? So it's just, it's a kind of, I don't know, a Yogi Berra thing or whatever. But it's, if you don't have housing pressure, if you don't have some challenges in housing, then you probably have a community problem, right? Because the places where housing is plentiful and cheap and easy to find and get are probably places that are not having as desirable outcomes for the people that live there. So this is a great place to live.
Absolutely.
I believe it's a good place to invest as a business. It's a good place to try to run an enterprise. It's a good place to kind of forward your passions and nonprofits and other things. And so all of that mixed together, and great geography, yes. Wonderful. We have some really great regional assets like the Minneapolis St. Paul Airport that you can't really replace, the access to the North Woods and other things. So it's a very desirable place, and it's challenging to get as much housing for everybody that wants to live here. And so over time, we're going to have to keep our foot on the gas, so to speak, to get things in place. So, the city doesn't build a lot of housing itself.
Right.
It really isn't a thing that's done. The federal government did at one time kind of facilitate that through cities, but they really have not been doing that. So it really relies on the private development sector to do a lot of the work. There are some nonprofits or other co-ops and things that can do some of the work, but for the most part, the city has to set up an environment that's attractive and try to clear as many hurdles as possible so that the private sector can do that. Try to get the right partners in the room. We do a little marketing to try to get people in, but for the most part, developers will find you based on the demand that's out there. And then we try to facilitate whenever we can low to moderate income units within any of the projects that the city financially supports, whether we're doing infrastructure support or that. We have a requirement that they do some level of units in there. And then we also do a lot of third-party sponsorship where we're the city has to be on board if developers are going to get tax credits for low to moderate income housing. And then again, obviously, showing our vision as a city, like where we're going to go, that we're going to grow, that we're willing to have some incremental growth over time, I think is helpful, because the development community is not interested in trying to beat their head against the wall, trying to get housing. It's hard enough to get all the things assembled that you need to get assembled to get a house structure built. Yep. Without having kind of the city, state, other people working against you. So that's one of the things we do too. We have some expectations about quality, and we're not going to let people ruin the Kinney and other things. But and so there's things that the developer community has to do here that they don't have to do other places. But for the most part, we're trying to make it predictable We're trying to make it timely, and so that's what I see. That's what's going on. What's going on is lots of people want to live here.
They sure do.
And we're also subject to the national, just less housing units getting built.
Yep.
And so that's something that will never go away. It's something we'll continue to work on. And if it does go away, then we'll be concerned about what the desirability of the community is,
yes.
because cities are built to bring people together. And if people don't want to come together in your city anymore, then it's something you got to think about.
Yeah. And I would definitely say, just as with what I do, it sure seems like people that live around here want to stay here, and I do feel like we're more affordable than some other places in western Wisconsin, and I just feel like we offer that sense of community and that people love. And so even college students wanting to stay here after they graduate and live here, it's something I see all the time as I'm working with clients. So
yeah, and I feel the same way about kind of said the employees aren't really captive, and so you want to make sure you got employees that like what they're doing. And it's the same for people that live here. People have a lot of choices about where they live, how they live, what type of housing they want, and those things are more limited now, I think, than they've been in the past because of supply versus demand. But you still don't need to live in River Falls if you don't want to. Right? There's people have a lot of choices, even just outside of River Falls. They have different types of choices that they can make about where they live. But yeah, affordability is important to try to keep tabs on, because it's part of the mix of what this community has been built on. And so having a variety of types and costs and things, but it'll continue to be a challenge, because building anything new is not going to be in reach for some folks.
Yes.
And so we have to think about how that's going to work over time. And people have kept one of the things we don't suffer from is a lack of a reinvestment in housing here either. So people have kept their houses up.
Yes.
And so that, that's good, because
it's great.
It's tidy. People like our neighborhoods. But there's not a lot of fixer-uppers that somebody can buy cheap and get into, and so that's a challenge we'll have to think about too. But again, we don't want to discourage people from maintaining their property.
Right.
So somebody can have a future affordable house.
Right. As we're kind of wrapping up here, is there anything that you want to talk about that maybe I missed or didn't touch on?
Well, I mean, we're kind of all in River Falls, which you touched on. So Rachel and I really enjoy living here. We've been able to take advantage of all the things that the community has to offer, and I hope that people do that. I hope they can take time. Our connection to the environment is really great here. There's lots of opportunities to just take a walk or a bike ride or get out and see. And then one of the things that I still like about River Falls is that just about anywhere I go to any event or anything, there's somebody we know, and you get a smile, and you can have a little chat about how things are going. So
yeah,
glad you gave me the opportunity to talk today. Thanks.
Well, thank you. Thank you for taking time out of your day to do this, and I hope to have you on again, maybe later this year, and
sure,
we can have another update on the city, maybe a mini state of the city or something like that. But
be happy to do it.
Awesome.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Thanks for joining us on Beyond the Falls, and we'll see you on the next episode.